The film Cars brought together an ensemble of voice actors and creative artists whose combined experience in performance, storytelling, music, and animation shaped the final emotional tone of the movie. The production was guided creatively by director John Lasseter, whose vision emphasized character-driven storytelling, expressive animation, and heartfelt themes rooted in personal growth and community. His background in animation and his leadership style at the studio helped establish a culture where story development and character authenticity were prioritized above spectacle. He played a central role in refining the emotional journey of the protagonist and ensuring that the film balanced humor with sincerity. Co-director and story contributor Joe Ranft also influenced the narrative structure and character depth. His experience in story development within animation contributed to the film's emphasis on emotional arcs and ensemble interaction. His work helped ensure that even secondary characters felt meaningful within the larger world, reinforcing the sense that the setting was populated by individuals rather than simple background figures. The script underwent extensive development, and the collaborative writing process reflected the studio's iterative storytelling approach. The dialogue and character interactions were refined to feel natural, allowing humor to arise organically from personality rather than forced jokes. This approach supported the film's dual audience appeal, providing accessible entertainment for children while offering layered references and emotional subtext for adults. One of the most defining elements of the film was the voice performance of Owen Wilson as the main character. Known for his relaxed delivery and distinctive vocal rhythm, he brought warmth and charm to the role. His previous work in live-action comedy helped him create a character who feels confident yet vulnerable. His voice performance emphasized sincerity and optimism, qualities that became central to the character's identity. The subtle variations in tone allowed the character's growth to feel believable, especially in scenes where confidence shifts into humility and reflection. The character of the seasoned racing legend was voiced by Paul Newman, whose long career in film brought gravitas and emotional depth. His experience in dramatic roles allowed him to portray wisdom and introspection with quiet strength. His vocal performance carried a sense of history, giving weight to the character's reflections on competition, ambition, and life beyond achievement. This role became one of his final major performances, adding additional emotional resonance for audiences who were familiar with his earlier cinematic work. His contribution helped anchor the story's emotional core. Comedic energy was provided by Larry the Cable Guy, whose distinctive Southern-influenced delivery shaped the personality of his character. His background in stand-up comedy contributed to the improvisational feel of certain lines, giving the character a casual humor that contrasts with the protagonist's ambition. The vocal contrast between characters added texture to the ensemble and reinforced themes of friendship and loyalty. Bonnie Hunt brought warmth and intelligence to her role, drawing on her experience in both television and film comedy. Her voice performance contributed emotional balance, particularly in scenes that required empathy and grounding. Her ability to convey sincerity through subtle intonations strengthened interpersonal dynamics within the story. Her work in the film helped demonstrate how supporting characters can function as emotional stabilizers in animated storytelling. Additional character voices included performers such as Tony Shalhoub, whose background in both comedic and dramatic acting allowed him to deliver nuanced humor, and Cheech Marin, whose long history in character roles and comedic performances added personality to the world. Each voice actor contributed a distinct energy that enriched the ensemble structure. The diversity of vocal styles created a dynamic soundscape that mirrored the varied personalities of the characters. The musical dimension of the film was shaped by composer Randy Newman. His history of writing emotionally resonant songs for animated films influenced the tone of the score. His compositions often blend orchestral arrangements with melodic simplicity, supporting character emotion without overpowering dialogue. In this film, the music reinforces themes of nostalgia, personal discovery, and community belonging. The score's recurring motifs help unify the narrative, subtly reminding the audience of the protagonist's evolving perspective. Producer Darla K. Anderson played an essential role in coordinating the production process. Her experience in managing large-scale animated projects ensured that creative departments worked cohesively. Production leadership in animation requires balancing artistic ambition with technical execution, and her oversight helped maintain consistency across story development, animation pipelines, and final editing. Her contribution supported the film's smooth integration of visual design, narrative pacing, and musical composition. The animation team collaborated closely with the directors and writers to ensure that character movement matched emotional intent. Voice recordings often influenced animation timing, and the performers' deliveries helped animators refine facial expressions and body language. This synergy between performance and visual design is central to animated filmmaking. The voice actors recorded their lines in studio sessions, sometimes together to capture natural interaction. This process allowed improvisation and spontaneity, strengthening the authenticity of conversations. The creative vision behind the film emphasized empathy and personal transformation. The directors and writers aimed to craft a story that celebrates growth rather than simple victory. This artistic direction influenced casting decisions, as performers were chosen not only for vocal quality, but for their ability to embody emotional arcs. The collaboration between creative leadership and performers ensured that characters felt grounded despite the fantastical premise. Overall, the voice cast and creative team transformed the concept of an animated racing world into a story about identity and connection. The combination of experienced dramatic actors, seasoned comedians, accomplished musicians, and visionary animation directors created a balanced production. Each contributor influenced the final film in measurable ways, from character depth to musical tone and narrative structure. The teamwork behind the scenes demonstrates how animation is a collaborative art form, where performance, design, and storytelling converge to create a unified emotional experience. The release of Cars marked a significant moment in modern animated cinema because it demonstrated how a story centered on unconventional characters could achieve worldwide appeal. The film contributed to the growing reputation of Pixar Animation Studios as a studio capable of blending technical innovation with emotional storytelling. Its success further strengthened the relationship between animated feature films and global family audiences, reinforcing the idea that computer animation could deliver both spectacle and heartfelt narrative depth. At the time of its release, the film arrived during an era when animated storytelling was expanding in scope and ambition. Audiences were increasingly expecting layered humor, complex character arcs, and visually immersive worlds. The movie met these expectations by presenting a fully realized universe inhabited by anthropomorphic vehicles, creating a cultural identity that felt distinct and immediately recognizable. The concept itself captured the imagination of children while also appealing to adults who appreciated the thematic exploration of competition, community, and personal reinvention. One of the most visible aspects of the film's cultural impact was its merchandise presence. Toy vehicles, clothing lines, video games, and themed accessories became widespread in stores across many countries. Children engaged with the characters through physical play, extending the narrative beyond the screen and into everyday environments. This form of transmedia engagement allowed the story to continue in imaginative settings, strengthening audience attachment. The visual simplicity of the character designs made them highly adaptable for toys, packaging, and promotional materials. The film's global reach contributed to its status as a cross-generational reference point. Families who watched the movie together often shared different interpretations of its themes. Children responded strongly to the humor and action sequences, while adults recognized commentary about ambition, success, and the meaning of fulfillment. This layered storytelling approach encouraged repeated viewings, which in turn reinforced the film's presence in household media libraries. The availability of home entertainment formats and television broadcasts ensured that the story remained accessible long after its theatrical release. The popularity of the film also extended into theme park experiences associated with Disney. Themed attractions and immersive areas inspired by the movie allowed visitors to physically enter environments reminiscent of the story's setting. These spaces translated cinematic elements into real-world experiences, strengthening emotional connection and expanding the franchise's cultural footprint. Visitors could encounter character representations, ride-inspired adventures, and interactive installations, transforming passive viewing into participatory entertainment. Music from the film also played a role in its cultural presence. Songs and instrumental themes were incorporated into promotional materials, public performances, and fan interpretations. Audiences associated specific melodies with emotional moments, and these musical cues became recognizable even outside the context of the full film. Background themes often evoke nostalgia when heard in other settings, demonstrating how sound design can become part of collective memory. The combination of orchestral score and lyrical composition helped the film maintain an auditory identity that remains distinct within popular culture. In digital spaces, the film inspired discussions, fan art, and online communities. Viewers shared interpretations of character arcs, debated favorite moments, and created creative reinterpretations. Social media platforms amplified this engagement, allowing clips, quotes, and images to circulate widely. The film's expressive characters and memorable scenes translated effectively into internet culture, where visual humor and emotional resonance often thrive. As younger audiences who grew up with the movie matured, they revisited it with nostalgia, further reinforcing its long-term generational significance. The narrative emphasis on perseverance and self-discovery resonated during a time when audiences were increasingly attentive to messages about authenticity and balance. The story encouraged reflection on the value of community over individual recognition. This perspective aligned with evolving cultural conversations about collaboration and empathy. Without explicitly presenting social commentary, the film nevertheless contributed to broader discussions about identity and purpose within contemporary society. Internationally, the movie performed strongly across diverse markets, demonstrating the universal appeal of its themes. Although the setting and cultural references are rooted in a specific environment, the emotional journey transcends geographical boundaries. Competition, friendship, mentorship, and transformation are concepts that resonate globally. As a result, the film became a shared reference point for families around the world, often introduced to new generations by parents who had experienced it during its initial release. The influence of the movie also extended into sports culture and automotive enthusiasm. Fans of racing and vehicle design appreciated the creative reinterpretation of mechanical subjects as characters with personality. This imaginative approach encouraged viewers to see everyday objects differently, promoting creativity and playfulness. Automotive events and fan gatherings sometimes incorporated visual tributes to the film, reflecting how fiction can intersect with real-world hobbies. Retail collaborations further strengthened the film's presence in public spaces. Promotional partnerships ensured that character imagery appeared in seasonal campaigns and store displays. The recognizable silhouettes of the characters contributed to strong brand identity. This visibility reinforced memory retention, ensuring that even casual viewers could immediately identify the film's universe through its design language. The generational significance of the movie also lies in its timing. Children who first encountered the film during early childhood often retained emotional associations as they grew older. For many, it became part of formative entertainment experiences associated with family trips, school breaks, and shared movie nights. This continuity across years contributes to its status as a nostalgic cornerstone within modern animation history. Educational conversations sometimes reference the film when discussing teamwork, humility, and goal setting. Educators and parents occasionally use scenes as discussion prompts about decision-making and growth. While primarily designed as entertainment, the story's accessible structure allowed it to function as a gentle introduction to moral reasoning. This adaptability contributed to its sustained popularity in household viewing environments. In the broader context of animated cinema, the film demonstrated how original concepts could achieve franchise-level influence without relying on established fairy tales or existing literary properties. Its success helped reinforce confidence in original storytelling within major studios. This impact encouraged continued investment in imaginative worlds, expanding creative possibilities for future projects. Over time, the movie became more than a standalone feature. It evolved into a cultural landmark associated with childhood memory, family bonding, and animated innovation. The production of Cars involved a complex and highly collaborative creative process that blended storytelling experimentation with technological innovation. The film was developed within the environment of Pixar Animation Studios, where iterative story development and continuous feedback shaped nearly every aspect of the final product. The behind-the-scenes process was not linear, but rather cyclical, with story concepts evolving through screenings, revisions, and creative discussions among directors, writers, animators, and technical artists. Early development included extensive brainstorming sessions focused on character motivation and world building. The creative team explored different versions of the central journey, testing narrative directions that would balance humor with emotional depth. Storyboards were used as a primary storytelling tool, allowing artists to visualize sequences before full animation began. These boards were repeatedly revised based on internal screenings, ensuring that pacing, character arcs, and emotional beats aligned with the intended tone. Director John Lasseter emphasized authenticity in performance and emotional truth in storytelling. During production, he encouraged collaboration between departments so that animation choices would reflect character psychology rather than simply visual spectacle. His leadership style fostered open discussion, allowing artists to propose alternative interpretations of scenes. This environment contributed to the film's evolving script and refined character relationships. Co-director and story contributor Joe Rampt played a key role in shaping narrative structure and comedic timing. His experience in story development helped guide transitions between action sequences and quieter emotional moments. The integration of humor and sentiment required careful balance, and story meetings often focused on ensuring that character growth remained central. These collaborative sessions influenced the final arrangement of scenes and dialogue. Voice recording sessions were a crucial component of the behind-the-scenes process. Actors recorded their performances in studio environments designed to capture subtle emotional nuance. Unlike traditional live-action filmmaking, animation allows flexibility in adjusting timing after recording. However, the production team valued authentic interactions, sometimes inviting performers to record together so that natural conversational rhythms could emerge. This approach strengthened the chemistry between characters. The performance of Owen Wilson was recorded with attention to tone and pacing, allowing animators to synchronize facial expressions and body language to his delivery. Voice recordings served as reference material for animators, who studied intonation patterns to ensure accurate emotional translation into movement. The actor's relaxed style influenced the character's physical demeanor, shaping gestures and posture in subtle ways. Similarly, the work of Paul Newman brought depth to the production during recording sessions. His vocal performance guided animators in designing expressions that conveyed wisdom and reflection. Because animation is built around performance, the timing of dialogue often informed the rhythm of character animation. Animators adjusted lip sync, eye movement, and micro-expressions to match the cadence of spoken lines. The film's musical identity was shaped by composer Randy Newman, whose involvement extended beyond background scoring. The integration of music into animation required close coordination between storyboards and musical themes. Compositions were sometimes tested during early story presentations to evaluate emotional impact. Melodies were refined to support character arcs, with recurring motifs reinforcing narrative continuity. Technical innovation played a significant role in production. The animation team worked with advanced rendering systems to create realistic lighting, reflective surfaces, and dynamic environments. The depiction of metallic textures and environmental reflections required specialized software development. Engineers collaborated with artists to ensure that visual fidelity aligned with artistic goals. This cooperation between technical and creative departments exemplified the studio's integrated workflow. Environment design also underwent extensive research. The creative team studied real-world landscapes, small-town architecture, and highway infrastructure to create a believable setting. Reference photography informed background painting and layout composition. Animators paid attention to perspective and spatial continuity, ensuring that camera movement felt coherent within the digital environment. This attention to detail enhanced immersion and supported storytelling clarity. During production, certain concepts were revised or removed entirely. Storylines that did not serve character growth were reworked to maintain focus. The iterative process included internal screenings where unfinished scenes were evaluated. Feedback from these sessions influenced pacing adjustments and dialogue refinement. This method allowed the film to evolve organically, with creative solutions emerging through collaboration. The animation pipeline required coordination between modeling, rigging, lighting, and effects teams. Character models were built with flexible systems that allowed expressive movement. Rigging artists designed internal structures that enabled natural articulation. This technical foundation allowed animators to emphasize emotion through body language. Lighting artists then enhanced scenes by adjusting shadows and highlights to reinforce mood. Sound design contributed significantly to the immersive experience. Vehicle movements, environmental ambience, and mechanical sounds were carefully crafted to complement visual storytelling. Audio engineers layered effects to create realistic auditory depth. Synchronization between sound and animation ensured that actions felt tangible. The combination of sound effects and musical score created a cohesive sensory experience. Collaboration extended to editing, where scenes were assembled and evaluated for rhythm and clarity. Transitions between dialogue, action, and musical segments were adjusted to maintain engagement. Editors worked closely with directors to ensure that emotional peaks occurred at appropriate narrative moments. Timing decisions were critical in animation, as each frame contributes to storytelling precision. The creative culture within the studio encouraged experimentation. Artists were invited to propose visual ideas, character poses, and environmental variations. This inclusive environment strengthened artistic ownership and encouraged innovation. The shared goal of emotional storytelling unified departments across technical and creative domains. Behind-the-scenes documentation of the production reveals a commitment to storytelling excellence. Every scene required coordination among multiple teams, from concept art to final rendering. The complexity of the workflow demonstrates the scale of modern animated filmmaking. Yet despite technical demands, the focus remained on character emotion and narrative clarity. The development of the film reflects the broader philosophy of Pixar animation studios, where story development precedes technical execution. This approach ensures that technology serves narrative purpose rather than dictating it. By prioritizing character arcs and emotional authenticity, the production maintained cohesion throughout its lengthy development cycle. The narrative of Cars is structured as a classic transformation story, built around a journey that begins with ambition and gradually shifts toward humility, connection, and self-awareness. The film opens with momentum and energy, immediately placing the protagonist within a competitive environment where speed, recognition, and public admiration define success. This introduction establishes the central conflict early, allowing the audience to understand the characters' priorities before the story begins to challenge them. The pacing of the film is carefully designed to alternate between action-driven sequences and quieter character moments. This rhythm keeps younger viewers engaged through movement and visual excitement while providing space for emotional development. The early scenes emphasize competition and personal achievement, presenting the protagonist as confident and focused on winning. However, subtle narrative cues suggest that this confidence borders on isolation, hinting that the character's journey will involve internal growth rather than external triumph alone. A major turning point occurs when the protagonist becomes separated from the fast-paced world he knows and finds himself in a slower, more intimate community setting. This shift in environment is not only physical, but also symbolic. The contrast between the bustling competitive landscape and the small-town atmosphere creates narrative tension. The slower setting forces interaction with individuals who value relationships over status. This structural change in location serves as a catalyst for transformation. Within this new environment, the story introduces supporting characters who embody different philosophies about life. Their presence challenges the protagonist's assumptions and gradually reshapes his perspective. Comedic interactions soften the emotional transitions, preventing the story from becoming overly heavy while still allowing meaningful lessons to emerge. Humor functions as both entertainment and narrative glue, linking scenes together and smoothing tonal shifts. The middle portion of the film focuses on relationship building. Friendships develop through shared experiences, misunderstandings, and moments of cooperation. These scenes are paced more gently, allowing emotional bonds to form naturally. The audience witnesses incremental change rather than sudden transformation. This gradual progression enhances believability, especially in an animated context where physical exaggeration could otherwise overshadow emotional realism. Another important structural element involves the protagonist's gradual recognition of values beyond personal success. The film avoids presenting this realization as immediate or forced. Instead, it emerges through observation and experience. Conversations with mentors and community members introduce alternative viewpoints. These interactions are woven into the story without interrupting flow, demonstrating effective integration of dialogue and character development. The emotional climax of the narrative centers on a moment where the protagonist must choose between personal ambition and loyalty to others. This decision represents the culmination of earlier lessons. The structure builds tension carefully, revisiting themes introduced at the beginning. By echoing early scenes, the film creates narrative symmetry. The audience is reminded of the character's initial mindset, which highlights the significance of the final choice. Musical elements are integrated into the storytelling in a subtle but meaningful way. Rather than dominating the narrative, songs and instrumental themes enhance emotional beats. Transitions between scenes are supported by musical cues that guide audience response. During reflective moments, the score softens to allow introspection. During action sequences, the music increases energy and reinforces movement. This structural use of sound contributes to pacing and mood regulation. Comedic sequences are strategically placed to relieve tension and maintain accessibility. Humor often arises from character differences and situational irony. These moments serve structural purposes by providing breathing room between dramatic developments. The balance between comedy and sincerity ensures that the film remains engaging for a wide demographic. Children respond to visual humor, while adults appreciate situational wit and character-based jokes. The final act of the film focuses on resolution and integration. The protagonist applies lessons learned throughout the journey, demonstrating growth through action rather than dialogue. This structural choice reinforces the visual nature of animation. Change is shown through behavior, posture, and interaction. The conclusion avoids simple victory as the sole measure of success. Instead, it emphasizes community involvement, shared achievement, and emotional maturity. The narrative structure follows a recognizable arc that resembles traditional storytelling patterns, yet it adapts these conventions to fit a modern animated setting. The journey begins with aspiration, moves through challenge and reflection, and concludes with transformation. This framework supports clarity and coherence, making the story easy to follow while still offering depth. The progression from independence to interdependence forms the emotional backbone of the film. Character interactions are essential to the plot's movement. Each supporting figure contributes to the protagonist's evolution. Conversations often serve as turning points, redirecting motivation and encouraging reconsideration of priorities. These exchanges are written to feel natural rather than instructional. The audience experiences change alongside the main character, which strengthens engagement. Visual storytelling plays a role in structural development as well. Changes in lighting, setting, and composition mirror internal shifts. Early scenes often feature dynamic movement and bright energy, while later scenes emphasize warmth and stability. These environmental contrasts support the narrative arc without requiring explicit explanation. Animation allows these transitions to occur seamlessly, reinforcing thematic progression. The integration of action sequences is carefully measured. They appear at strategic points to maintain momentum and illustrate external challenges. However, these sequences are never isolated from character development. Each action scene advances the plot or reveals personality traits. This ensures that excitement contributes to story progression rather than existing as spectacle alone. Dialogue is concise and purposeful, often revealing character intentions or shifting relationships. Conversations move the story forward by clarifying motivations and resolving misunderstandings. Exposition is delivered through interaction rather than lengthy explanation. This technique keeps the pacing fluid and maintains audience immersion. The structure also includes moments of reflection that allow the protagonist and the audience to process events. These quieter scenes deepen emotional impact and prevent fatigue. By alternating intensity with calm, the film sustains engagement across its duration. This rhythmic balance is essential in family-oriented storytelling, where attention spans and emotional readiness vary. The thematic foundation of Cars centers on identity, transformation, and the redefinition of success. At its core, the story explores what it means to grow beyond ego and to understand the value of relationships over individual achievement. While the surface narrative follows competition and ambition, the deeper message examines how personal fulfillment often emerges from connection, humility, and shared experience. This balance between entertainment and moral reflection allows the film to function simultaneously as adventure and emotional lesson. One of the primary themes is identity. The protagonist begins the story with a clear sense of who he believes he is, defined almost entirely by external validation. Achievement, recognition, and status shape his worldview. The film challenges this self-definition by placing the character in unfamiliar surroundings where his previous measures of worth no longer apply. Through this shift, the narrative encourages audiences to question whether identity should depend solely on performance or public approval. Instead, the story suggests that identity grows through relationships and internal reflection. Self-acceptance is closely linked to identity. Throughout the film, the protagonist gradually learns to appreciate qualities beyond speed and competitiveness. This journey does not happen instantly. Instead, it unfolds through experiences that reveal strengths in others and vulnerabilities within himself. The moral lesson is not that ambition is wrong, but that ambition without empathy can lead to isolation. By presenting this nuance, the film avoids simplistic messaging and instead promotes balanced personal development. Friendship plays a central role in the emotional arc. The protagonist's interactions with the surrounding community demonstrate how relationships can reshape perspective. Friendships in the film are not presented as effortless or automatic. They develop through misunderstandings, cooperation, and shared challenges. This realistic progression reinforces the idea that meaningful bonds require time and openness. The story communicates that true companionship involves listening, compromise, and mutual respect. Community is another significant theme. The environment in which much of the story takes place represents cooperation and shared identity. Unlike competitive spaces where individuals strive independently, this community thrives on collaboration. The film contrasts these two systems to highlight different approaches to life. The message suggests that communities function best when members contribute to collective well-being. Through this depiction, viewers are encouraged to value participation and responsibility within their own environments. Personal growth is woven throughout the narrative structure. Growth in the film is not portrayed as physical transformation but as emotional and psychological change. The protagonist learns to reconsider assumptions and adapt behavior accordingly. This growth is gradual, emphasizing that meaningful change requires reflection and experience. The film communicates that mistakes are opportunities for learning rather than permanent failures. This perspective fosters resilience and encourages perseverance during challenging situations. Another important moral element involves humility. Early in the story, confidence borders on arrogance. The narrative demonstrates how overconfidence can limit understanding and create distance from others. Through setbacks and new relationships, the character develops humility. This quality allows him to listen, observe, and value contributions from those around him. Humility becomes a strength rather than a weakness. By presenting this transformation, the film teaches that recognizing limitations is an essential part of maturity. Loyalty is also emphasized. As relationships deepen, the protagonist must decide whether to prioritize personal goals or commitments to friends. This tension illustrates the complexity of ethical decision-making. Loyalty in the film is not blind obedience, but a conscious choice to support others. The story suggests that true success includes maintaining integrity and honoring bonds formed along the journey. This reinforces the theme that achievement gains meaning when shared. The film also explores the concept of destiny versus choice. Initially, the protagonist believes that success is predetermined by talent and opportunity. However, the narrative reveals that choices shape outcomes. Decisions made in moments of pressure define character more than natural ability alone. This theme encourages audiences to recognize personal agency. While circumstances influence life paths, individual decisions ultimately determine direction and growth. Another subtle theme concerns slowing down. The contrast between fast-paced ambition and slower communal life symbolizes the importance of balance. The story suggests that constant acceleration can prevent reflection. By experiencing a different rhythm, the protagonist learns to appreciate surroundings and relationships. This lesson extends beyond the narrative world, reminding viewers that rest and observation are valuable components of well-being. The message is not to abandon goals, but to integrate them with awareness and gratitude. Love and respect are embedded within interpersonal interactions. While the film does not center on romantic love, it emphasizes respect between individuals. Respect forms the foundation of cooperation and understanding. Characters treat one another with dignity once barriers of pride begin to fall. This transformation highlights the moral that empathy enhances social harmony. By portraying respectful communication, the film models positive behavior for audiences of all ages. Sacrifice appears as a theme during critical narrative moments. Characters demonstrate willingness to prioritize others when necessary. Sacrifice in this context does not imply loss without reward, but rather the exchange of individual gain for collective benefit. This concept aligns with broader messages about teamwork. Through these examples, the film communicates that collaboration often produces outcomes that solitary effort cannot achieve. Freedom is another underlying idea. At the beginning, freedom is associated with independence and self-reliance. However, the story redefines freedom as the ability to choose meaningful connections. True freedom involves the capacity to act with awareness rather than impulse. This reframing encourages viewers to consider freedom as responsibility combined with autonomy. By presenting this nuanced interpretation, the film deepens its thematic resonance. The balance between fantasy and realism supports the moral framework. Although the characters exist in an imaginative setting, their emotions and conflicts feel grounded. This combination allows abstract lessons to be delivered in accessible ways. Children can understand the narrative through visual storytelling, while adults can interpret symbolic layers. The dual-level communication strengthens the film's ability to convey moral messages without overt preaching. Emotional intelligence is subtly promoted throughout the story. Characters learn to recognize feelings in themselves and others. The animation style of Cars represents a significant evolution in computer-generated visual storytelling, combining technical precision with expressive character design. The film's visual identity is immediately recognizable due to its unique approach to anthropomorphic vehicles, detailed environments, and carefully constructed lighting. Rather than imitating live-action realism directly, the animation embraces stylization, allowing characters and settings to exist in a world that feels both grounded and imaginative. One of the most striking aspects of the visual design is the balance between mechanical structure and emotional expression. The characters are built from automotive forms, yet their surfaces are adapted to allow facial movement, eye focus, and subtle gestures. This required creative solutions in character modeling and rigging. Animators had to ensure that expressions could be communicated clearly without losing the integrity of the vehicle design. Headlights, windshields, and grills function as expressive features, replacing traditional facial anatomy while maintaining readability for audiences. The environmental design plays an equally important role in visual storytelling. Landscapes are rendered with careful attention to texture, depth, and scale. Wide open roads, small-town architecture, and expansive natural settings provide contrast that reinforces narrative themes. The environments are not merely backgrounds, but active elements in the story. Camera movement within these spaces enhances immersion, guiding the viewer's eye and emphasizing emotional moments. Perspective is used deliberately to create intimacy during character-driven scenes and excitement during action sequences. Color palette is another essential component of the animation style. Warm tones dominate community-oriented scenes, creating a sense of comfort and belonging. Cooler or more neutral shades appear in competitive environments, subtly reinforcing thematic contrasts. Lighting design enhances these color choices by shaping mood and depth. Sunlight, reflections, and shadow placement are carefully calculated to produce realism while preserving artistic clarity. The interaction between light and metallic surfaces required advanced rendering techniques, as reflective materials behave differently from organic textures. Facial animation is achieved through refined control of eye movement and subtle adjustments in body positioning. Since the characters lack traditional limbs and facial structures, emotion must be conveyed through posture, tilt, and timing. Animators studied voice performances to synchronize micro-expressions with dialogue rhythm. Even small shifts in angle or will positioning can communicate confidence, hesitation, or curiosity. This reliance on physical nuance demonstrates the sophistication of modern animation systems. Movement design in the film is dynamic and fluid. Racing sequences showcase speed through motion blur, camera tracking, and environmental distortion. These techniques create a sense of velocity without sacrificing clarity. Action scenes are constructed to remain visually understandable, even during rapid transitions. The choreography of vehicles on screen required coordination between layout artists and animators to ensure spatial continuity. This careful planning prevents confusion while maintaining excitement. Visual symbolism is embedded throughout the film's design. Changes in setting often mirror internal transformation. As the protagonist experiences growth, the surrounding environments subtly reflect shifts in tone. Composition becomes more balanced, and framing emphasizes connection rather than isolation. Scenes that highlight community often feature symmetrical arrangements and shared spaces, reinforcing the message of unity. This integration of theme and imagery strengthens narrative coherence. Technological innovation was central to achieving the film's visual complexity. Rendering reflective surfaces posed significant challenges, as vehicles interact with their surroundings in highly visible ways. Improvements in rendering software allowed artists to simulate realistic reflections, lighting gradients, and surface detail. These advancements expanded the possibilities of computer animation and influenced future productions. The technical pipeline required collaboration between software engineers and artists, ensuring that tools supported creative vision. Character design also contributes to storytelling efficiency. Each vehicle reflects personality through shape, color, and proportion. Streamlined forms suggest speed and confidence, while more compact designs imply stability and reliability. These visual cues help audiences quickly understand character traits without extensive explanation. Consistency in design language ensures that viewers can identify roles and relationships at a glance. This clarity is especially important in ensemble storytelling. Facial readability is maintained through strategic use of eye placement and surface curvature. The windshield area functions as a dynamic expressive field, allowing subtle emotional shifts. Animators emphasized eye focus to direct audience attention. By adjusting gaze direction and eyelid movement, characters convey thought processes and reactions. This technique demonstrates how non-traditional anatomy can still produce convincing emotional communication. Environmental detail enhances immersion. Textures such as road surfaces, building materials, and natural elements are rendered with care to create a believable setting. These details do not overwhelm the frame, but instead support depth and realism. Background elements are designed to complement character action rather than distract from it. Layering techniques allow foreground, midground, and background to coexist harmoniously, guiding visual hierarchy. Camera work in the animation mimics cinematic language found in live-action filmmaking. Dynamic angles, tracking shots, and perspective shifts create variety in visual composition. However, the flexibility of digital animation allows camera movement that would be difficult in physical production. This freedom enables imaginative framing while maintaining narrative clarity. Transitions between scenes are smooth, often using movement or environmental cues to maintain continuity. The film also demonstrates careful attention to motion timing. Animated movement is not continuous in the way real-world motion appears, but is constructed frame by frame. Animators adjust timing to reflect weight, acceleration, and emotional emphasis. Pauses and accelerations are intentionally placed to enhance dramatic effect. This rhythm contributes to comedic timing and emotional resonance alike. Texture rendering plays a vital role in maintaining visual credibility. Metallic surfaces, rubber components, and environmental materials are differentiated through shading and light interaction. Reflections shift according to scene conditions, reinforcing spatial awareness. This realism supports audience immersion while preserving the stylized nature of the world. The blend of realism and exaggeration defines the film's distinctive aesthetic. Symbolic use of space reinforces thematic ideas. Open highways represent possibility and freedom, while enclosed spaces suggest introspection or transition. The musical landscape of Cars plays a central role in shaping its emotional rhythm and narrative identity. The score was composed by Newman, whose distinctive approach to melody and orchestration blends simplicity with warmth. His music often emphasizes character emotion rather than dramatic intensity alone, and this philosophy aligns closely with the storytelling style of the film. Through recurring motifs and carefully placed musical cues, the score reinforces themes of transformation, friendship, and reflection. The integration of music begins early in the film, where instrumental themes accompany energetic sequences. The composition supports movement without overpowering dialogue. In action scenes, the tempo increases to match visual pacing, creating synchronization between sound and motion. This alignment enhances the sensation of speed and momentum, especially during racing moments. The music does not simply accompany the visuals, it interacts with them, shaping how audiences perceive excitement and tension. During quieter scenes, the score shifts towards softer instrumentation. These moments allow emotional depth to surface. Piano lines, subtle string arrangements, and gentle harmonies create an atmosphere of introspection. This contrast between energetic and reflective passages mirrors the protagonist's internal journey. The music becomes a narrative guide, signaling transitions between ambition and understanding. By adjusting tone and rhythm, the score helps audiences emotionally navigate the story. Songwriting elements within the film contribute additional texture. Lyrical compositions are used to reinforce themes of identity and community. The lyrics often reflect optimism, perseverance, and connection. Rather than focusing on spectacle, the songs emphasize character perspective. This lyrical focus supports the narrative arc by expressing emotional states in a direct, yet accessible way. Audiences can interpret the words on multiple levels, making the songs meaningful for both children and adults. Sound design is equally important in establishing immersion. Because the characters are vehicles, mechanical sounds form a fundamental part of the auditory environment. Engine vibrations, tire movement, acceleration effects, and environmental echoes are carefully crafted to feel authentic while remaining expressive. The sound team worked to balance realism with clarity, ensuring that mechanical noises complemented dialogue and music rather than overwhelming them. Each character's movement is paired with distinctive sound characteristics. Acceleration produces layered audio effects that convey power and speed. Braking, turning, and shifting are represented through subtle sonic variations. These details enhance believability and reinforce visual storytelling. The synchronization of sound effects with animation timing is essential, as even minor misalignment could disrupt immersion. Precise editing ensures that every motion is supported by appropriate auditory cues. Environmental soundscapes contribute to world building. Open road scenes include ambient wind, distant echoes, and natural background elements. These sounds create spatial depth and reinforce the sense of scale. In community settings, ambient audio becomes softer and more intimate, emphasizing conversation and interaction. This shift in environmental sound reflects thematic transitions between public competition and personal connection. Music also plays a role in character development. Specific melodic themes are associated with the protagonist, evolving subtly throughout the film. At the beginning, the music reflects confidence and forward momentum. As the story progresses, the themes incorporate more nuanced harmonies, suggesting growth and self-awareness. This technique allows audiences to subconsciously track emotional transformation through auditory repetition and variation. The collaboration between director John Lasseter and the composer ensured that music supported narrative intention. During production, scenes were reviewed with temporary tracks to evaluate pacing. Adjustments were made to align musical beats with key visual moments. This iterative process highlights how animation integrates sound and image from early development stages. Music is not added at the end as decoration. It is considered part of storytelling structure. Sound mixing is another essential component. Dialogue must remain clear even during complex action sequences. Engineers balance volume levels so that speech, music, and effects coexist harmoniously. Dynamic range is controlled to preserve emotional shifts without causing auditory fatigue. This careful mixing allows audiences to focus on character interactions while still experiencing environmental richness. The film's use of silence is also notable. Moments of reduced sound intensity emphasize emotional reflection. By briefly minimizing background noise, the production draws attention to facial expression and dialogue. Silence functions as a powerful storytelling tool, creating contrast with more energetic scenes. This dynamic range between sound and quiet enhances overall impact. The orchestration style blends traditional symphonic elements with contemporary influences. Strings, brass, and percussion provide foundational structure. Layered instrumentation supports both grandeur and intimacy. This combination ensures that the music remains versatile across different narrative contexts. During celebratory sequences, fuller orchestration conveys triumph. During introspective scenes, minimal arrangements create emotional closeness. Audiences often associate certain musical passages with specific moments in the story. This association strengthens memory retention and emotional connection. When themes recur later in the film, they evoke earlier experiences, creating continuity. This technique deepens engagement by reminding viewers of character progress without explicit repetition of dialogue. The sound design team also considered spatial audio placement. Directional sound enhances realism by suggesting movement across the screen. Vehicles passing from one side to another are reflected in corresponding audio shifts. This attention to spatial consistency reinforces visual perspective and contributes to immersion. The integration of sound positioning with animation staging demonstrates technical sophistication. Background music transitions are carefully timed to match scene changes. Fades and cross dissolves are supported by musical modulation, ensuring smooth progression. Abrupt cuts are avoided unless narratively justified. This seamless blending of scenes contributes to overall flow and maintains audience focus. The emotional power of the score lies in its restraint. Rather than overwhelming scenes with complexity, the music emphasizes clarity and melody. This approach allows characters to remain central. The score enhances, but does not dominate the story. This balance reflects the broader creative philosophy of the film, where collaboration between departments ensures unity. The combined efforts of composers, sound designers, editors, and directors result in a cohesive auditory experience. Music and sound function as invisible narrators, guiding interpretation and reinforcing themes. Through rhythm, tone, and texture, the audio landscape shapes emotional response as effectively as visual imagery. Upon its release, Cars received widespread attention from audiences and critics alike, becoming one of the most discussed animated films of its time. The film's box office performance demonstrated strong global appeal, drawing large family audiences to theaters and sustaining momentum over an extended theatrical run. Its commercial success reinforced confidence in original animated storytelling and contributed to the continued prominence of computer-generated family films in mainstream cinema. Critics responded with a mixture of admiration and thoughtful analysis. Many praised the technical achievement of the animation, particularly the detailed rendering of reflective surfaces and expansive environments. The visual craftsmanship was frequently highlighted as a milestone in digital filmmaking. Reviewers also noted the emotional sincerity of the story, emphasizing its focus on character development and moral growth. The combination of spectacle and sentiment was seen as a defining strength, especially in a market increasingly saturated with franchise-based content. Some critics, however, engaged in discussion about pacing and thematic execution. A portion of commentary suggested that the film's structure followed a familiar narrative arc, which some viewers found predictable. Others debated whether the central message about slowing down and valuing community was delivered with sufficient subtlety. Despite these conversations, the overall reception acknowledged the film's ability to connect with audiences of varying ages. The balance between humor, action, and emotional reflection contributed to its broad accessibility. Family audiences responded positively, particularly appreciating the clarity of storytelling and visual engagement. Parents often noted that the film offered entertainment suitable for shared viewing experiences. Children were drawn to the colorful characters and dynamic racing sequences, while adults recognized deeper commentary about identity and growth. This layered appeal helped the film maintain relevance across different age groups. Repeated home viewings further solidified its presence in family media collections. The film's performance during awards season reflected recognition within the animation industry. It received nominations and honors that acknowledged both technical excellence and musical contribution. The score and original compositions were especially noted for their integration into the narrative structure. While competition in animated categories was strong, the film's presence in major discussions underscored its cultural significance during that period. International reception was equally strong. Audiences across diverse regions connected with the universal themes of ambition, friendship, and transformation. Although the story is set within a specific imaginative environment, its emotional core transcends cultural boundaries. Global distribution allowed the film to reach a wide spectrum of viewers, further expanding its influence. This international success contributed to its long-term status as a recognizable and enduring animated feature. Some critical discussions centered on the film's emphasis on merchandising potential. Because the character designs are visually distinctive and easily adaptable, the movie naturally supported extensive product lines. Commentators observed that the film's commercial ecosystem extended beyond the screen, generating toys, apparel, and related media. While this aspect was sometimes debated, it also reflected the evolving relationship between cinema and broader entertainment branding strategies in the early 21st century. Audience engagement remained strong after the theatrical release. Home media formats allowed families to revisit the film, and television broadcasts introduced it to new viewers. Over time, nostalgia began to influence perception. Individuals who had first encountered the film as children revisited it later with renewed perspective. This shift in audience experience contributed to ongoing appreciation and reevaluation. What may have initially been perceived as a simple children's story often gained additional meaning with maturity. Educators and community leaders sometimes reference the film in discussions about teamwork and perseverance. Although not designed as instructional material, its accessible narrative made it suitable for conversation about cooperation and decision-making. This practical applicability contributed to its positive reception among parents and caregivers who valued stories that encourage constructive behavior. Online communities played a role in sustaining dialogue about the film. Discussions, reviews, and fan interpretations circulated across digital platforms. Viewers analyzed character development, compared favorite scenes, and shared reflections about emotional impact. This continued engagement extended the film's lifespan beyond its initial release window. The ability of audiences to revisit and reinterpret the story contributed to its lasting visibility in entertainment culture. Comparisons with other animated films of the era were common in critical analysis. Reviewers often evaluated its narrative approach alongside contemporaries, considering differences in tone, structure, and thematic emphasis. Some observed that its focus on community values distinguished it from stories centered on individual heroism alone. Others highlighted its balance of humor and sincerity as a strength within the broader animation landscape. The reception also reflected generational differences in interpretation. Younger viewers primarily experienced the film as an exciting adventure with memorable characters. Older audiences tended to focus on its reflections about success, balance, and personal fulfillment. This dual perspective strengthened its appeal, as it allowed families to engage in conversations about the story together. Shared viewing experiences contributed to positive word of mouth and sustained interest. From a technical standpoint, Industry professionals recognized the film's advancements in rendering and environmental detail. The depiction of reflective materials and dynamic lighting influenced subsequent animated productions. This recognition within the creative community further validated the film's contribution to the evolution of digital animation techniques. Despite occasional criticism regarding narrative familiarity, the overall consensus acknowledged the film's effectiveness in delivering emotional resonance and visual innovation. The strength of character relationships, combined with thoughtful music integration, helped maintain audience investment. The film's ability to entertain while conveying meaningful themes ensured its continued relevance. The legacy of Cars extends far beyond its original theatrical release, developing into a broad multimedia franchise that influenced animation branding strategies and long-term storytelling models. What began as a single-feature film evolved into a sustained creative universe, supported by sequels, short films, merchandise lines, and global experiences. This expansion demonstrates how a successful animated property can grow into a continuing cultural presence when audience engagement remains strong. One of the most significant developments in the film's legacy was the creation of sequels that further explored the world and its characters. These follow-up stories expanded narrative scope while maintaining continuity with the original themes of friendship, growth, and identity. By building upon established relationships and introducing new characters, the franchise sustained audience interest across different generations. Sequels often deepened world-building and broadened geographic settings within the universe, allowing viewers to experience new environments while remaining connected to familiar figures. The continued involvement of Pixar Animation Studios ensured that the franchise retained its core artistic philosophy. The studio's emphasis on character-driven storytelling and technical innovation remained central to subsequent installments. This consistency helped preserve tonal identity, even as narratives evolved. The creative pipeline that supported the original film served as a foundation for future productions, demonstrating how infrastructure and artistic vision can sustain long-term development. The broader corporate partnership with Disney played a crucial role in expanding global reach. Distribution networks, cross-promotional campaigns, and international marketing strategies enabled the franchise to reach audiences worldwide. This collaboration strengthened visibility across theatrical releases, home entertainment platforms, and consumer products. The alignment between creative production and global distribution contributed significantly to the film's enduring presence in popular culture. Merchandising became one of the most visible aspects of the franchise's legacy. Character-inspired toys, clothing, school supplies, and themed accessories were widely available in retail environments. The visual simplicity and distinct color schemes of the characters made them highly adaptable for product design. This adaptability supported strong brand recognition and encouraged imaginative play among younger audiences. Through merchandise, the story extended beyond the screen and into daily life, reinforcing emotional attachment. Theme park integration further expanded the film's influence. Immersive attractions and themed areas allowed visitors to experience environments inspired by the cinematic world. These physical spaces transformed fictional settings into interactive experiences. Visitors could engage with character representations, participate in rides based on story elements, and explore environments designed to reflect the film's aesthetic. This form of experiential storytelling strengthened audience connection and demonstrated how animation properties can transition into spatial entertainment. The franchise also included short-form content that explored side stories and character perspectives. These shorter narratives enriched the universe by providing additional context and humor. By focusing on secondary characters or alternate situations, these projects maintained engagement between major releases. This strategy supported audience retention and allowed creative teams to experiment with tone and format while remaining within the established world. Television adaptations and digital distribution further extended accessibility. Repeated broadcasts introduced the film to new viewers, including those who may not have experienced it in theaters. Streaming platforms later ensured continued availability, allowing families to revisit the story at their convenience. This accessibility contributed to intergenerational transmission, as parents who had grown up with the film shared it with their children. Such continuity strengthened its cultural durability. The franchise's visual identity became a recognizable symbol within animation history. Character silhouettes, racing imagery, and environmental design elements were frequently used in promotional materials. This consistent branding helped maintain cohesion across different media formats. The strong visual language ensured immediate recognition, even in brief appearances or cross-promotional contexts. In addition to entertainment expansion, the legacy of the film influenced discussions about narrative structure within animated cinema. Its success demonstrated that original worlds, rather than adaptations of pre-existing properties, could achieve global impact. This achievement encouraged studios to invest in new intellectual properties. The film's performance contributed to broader industry confidence in creative risk-taking within family-oriented animation. The soundtrack and musical themes also supported long-term recognition. Recurring melodies became associated with the franchise identity, reinforcing continuity across installments. Musical consistency helped unify different entries, even when storylines evolved. This auditory branding strengthened emotional memory and ensured that audiences could instantly associate certain tones with the franchise universe. Global merchandise partnerships and promotional collaborations further reinforced visibility. International campaigns adapted marketing strategies to regional audiences while maintaining core visual elements. This balance between localization and brand consistency allowed the franchise to thrive in diverse markets. Cultural adaptability contributed to sustained commercial strength. The influence of Cars can also be observed in the continued popularity of racing-themed entertainment within animation. Its portrayal of competition and mentorship inspired similar storytelling approaches in later projects. The integration of action sequences with emotional growth became a reference point for balancing excitement with character development. This structural model demonstrated that high-energy narratives can coexist with introspective themes. Fan communities played a role in maintaining legacy visibility. Discussions, creative reinterpretations, and shared memories circulated across digital platforms. Audience engagement through artwork, analysis, and commentary kept the franchise active within online culture. This participatory enthusiasm contributed to the perception of the film as a long-standing cultural property rather than a temporary success. The continued relevance of the franchise across multiple generations illustrates how animated storytelling can evolve over time. As audiences age, their interpretation of themes shifts, allowing new meanings to emerge. This evolving relationship between viewer and story strengthens longevity. What begins as simple entertainment for children can transform into nostalgic reflection for adults, ensuring sustained interest. The emotional connection audiences formed with the story of Cars developed gradually and deepened over time. From its initial release onward, viewers responded not only to its visual energy and humor, but also to its underlying message about identity and belonging. The film's accessible storytelling allowed different age groups to engage with it in distinct yet complementary ways. Children experienced excitement, color, and movement, while adults interpreted character arcs through the lens of life experience. This dual resonance contributed to its lasting presence in family media collections. For younger viewers, the characters functioned as immediately recognizable personalities. The expressive design and clear emotional cues made it easy for children to understand motivations and relationships. Themes of friendship and cooperation were presented in straightforward narrative forms, allowing young audiences to absorb lessons naturally through story progression. The excitement of racing sequences and the warmth of community interactions created a balanced viewing experience that could entertain without overwhelming. Adults often approach the film with a different perspective. Many recognized reflections of real-world experiences within the narrative structure. The exploration of ambition, success, and personal growth resonated with viewers who had navigated similar challenges in their own lives. The story's emphasis on slowing down and appreciating relationships encouraged reflection on priorities. This interpretive flexibility allowed the film to function as both entertainment and subtle commentary on contemporary values. Family viewing sessions strengthened emotional bonds between generations. Parents who watched the film with their children often shared reactions and interpretations. This shared engagement created opportunities for discussion about goals, responsibility, and empathy. Such conversations extended the impact of the film beyond the screen, transforming it into a catalyst for communication within households. Repeated viewings reinforced familiarity, and familiarity often deepens emotional attachment. Fan communities also contributed to the film's generational resonance. Online discussions, creative projects, and shared memories helped maintain visibility across years. As children who first encountered the film matured, many revisited it with nostalgia. This return engagement is a key factor in long-term cultural endurance. Nostalgia transforms entertainment into memory, and memory strengthens emotional connection. Through this cycle, the film continued to feel relevant even as new animated releases entered the marketplace. The characters became symbolic figures within childhood experience for many viewers. Toys and related products allowed children to recreate scenes, extending narrative imagination into play. This form of engagement strengthened identification with the story. When audiences interact physically with representations of characters, the emotional link often intensifies. Imaginative play encourages storytelling from the perspective of the characters themselves, deepening understanding of relationships and events. Different age groups also interpreted the central themes in varied ways. Children may have focused on teamwork and friendship as immediate lessons, while teenagers and adults might have recognized broader messages about self-confidence and humility. This layered meaning structure ensured that the film could grow alongside its audience. As viewers aged, new interpretations became visible, creating an evolving relationship with the story. The film's emotional pacing supports this generational flexibility. Moments of humor provide levity that appeals to younger viewers, while reflective sequences offer depth for older audiences. This combination ensures that attention remains sustained across demographic boundaries. The balance between action and introspection allows families to share an experience that feels inclusive rather than segmented. Audience attachment is also influenced by repetition. Animated films often benefit from multiple viewings, and this story is particularly suited to revisitation. Each viewing can reveal additional details in character interaction, background design, and thematic development. Familiarity enhances appreciation, as subtle narrative elements become more noticeable over time. This process strengthens long-term engagement and transforms the film into a recurring cultural reference point. Emotional resonance is reinforced by the journey of transformation at the center of the narrative. Viewers often identify with experiences of growth, change, and self-discovery. The film presents these experiences in a relatable way, allowing audiences to see aspects of themselves reflected in the protagonist's development. Identification with characters increases empathy and strengthens connection. When audiences perceive parallels between fictional journeys and personal experiences, engagement becomes more meaningful. The soundtrack and recurring musical motifs contribute to this resonance by triggering memory associations. Specific melodies can evoke scenes and emotions instantly, creating a sensory link to the story. Music functions as an emotional shortcut, enabling audiences to relive feelings connected to particular moments. This auditory memory plays a role in nostalgia, reinforcing attachment across years. Community discussions, both informal and organized, further demonstrate the film's enduring resonance. Viewers share favorite scenes, analyze character growth, and recount personal memories related to their first viewing. This collective memory building transforms the film into a shared cultural artifact. When large groups of people remember and reference the same story, it becomes part of generational identity. The film's accessibility also enhances its cross-generational appeal. The narrative structure is clear and easy to follow, making it approachable for first-time viewers. At the same time, its thematic depth allows for reinterpretation. This adaptability ensures that the film remains engaging regardless of audience maturity. Simplicity in presentation does not limit complexity in meaning. Instead, it enables layered understanding. Emotional highs and lows within the story create memorable moments that audiences often recall vividly. Scenes of triumph, friendship, and reflection become anchors in memory. These anchor moments contribute to the film's longevity, as they are easily referenced and emotionally significant. When audiences remember specific scenes with clarity, they are more likely to revisit the film. The generational aspect of the film's resonance is especially evident in families who introduce it to younger children years after its release. In these cases, the film serves as a bridge between age groups. Parents who once watched it during their own childhood can share it with their children, creating continuity. This shared experience strengthens familial bonds and extends the story's cultural lifespan. Over time, the film transitioned from being a contemporary release to a nostalgic classic for many viewers. Nostalgia enhances emotional warmth, often increasing appreciation for character relationships and thematic depth. What may have once been viewed primarily as entertainment can later be understood as a formative experience. This transformation reflects the evolving nature of audience perception. The character development in Cars follows a structured transformation that mirrors classic storytelling traditions while adapting them to a modern animated setting. At the center of the narrative is a protagonist who begins with strong ambition, confidence, and a belief that individual success defines personal worth. Throughout the story, this character undergoes internal change that gradually reshapes priorities, relationships, and self-perception. The evolution is not abrupt but carefully paced, allowing audiences to witness growth in stages rather than through sudden revelation. The protagonist embodies elements of the traditional hero archetype. Initially, he is driven by competition and recognition, seeking external validation through achievement. This mirrors the early phase of the hero's journey, where confidence and desire propel the character into action. However, unlike many conventional heroes whose journey revolves around physical conquest, this narrative emphasizes emotional learning. The challenge is not defeating an enemy alone, but understanding oneself and forming meaningful connections. This reinterpretation of the archetype modernizes the structure while preserving its foundational framework. Supporting characters serve as catalysts for transformation. Each individual encountered along the journey represents a different perspective on life. Some emphasize community and cooperation, while others highlight patience, mentorship, or resilience. Through interaction with these figures, the protagonist is exposed to alternative value systems. This dynamic interaction allows growth to emerge organically. Rather than being told how to change, the character learns through experience, dialogue, and shared activity. Friendship is central to the development process. Relationships begin with misunderstanding and gradual trust building. These interactions illustrate how empathy develops over time. Loyalty becomes more important than competition, and collaboration replaces isolation. The friendships in the story are not merely supportive background elements. They actively influence decisions and redirect motivations. This reinforces the theme that personal growth often occurs within the context of social connection. The antagonist archetype in the film functions differently from traditional villains. Instead of representing pure malice, opposition arises from contrasting values and circumstances. This nuanced approach prevents the story from relying on simplistic conflict. The opposing forces highlight differences in philosophy, particularly regarding ambition and self-interest. This structural choice encourages reflection rather than confrontation alone. The narrative suggests that conflict can serve as a learning mechanism when approached thoughtfully. Internal conflict plays a significant role in character progression. The protagonist experiences moments of doubt, frustration, and reevaluation. These emotional shifts are essential to development, as they demonstrate that growth requires vulnerability. Pride gradually gives way to humility. Confidence evolves into balanced self-awareness. This transformation is expressed through behavior changes, altered decision-making, and revised priorities. Animation allows these subtle adjustments to be visually represented through posture, expression, and interaction. Secondary characters also follow developmental arcs, though often in shorter form. Their personal journeys contribute to the broader thematic landscape. Mentors provide wisdom, companions offer companionship, and community members represent stability. These roles align with established archetypal structures such as the mentor, the ally, and the guide. Each archetype functions within the story to support the protagonist's evolution while maintaining narrative balance. The mentor figure in particular plays a significant role in shaping perspective. Through conversations and shared experiences, the mentor challenges assumptions and encourages introspection. This guidance does not remove obstacles, but instead reframes them. The presence of mentorship reinforces the theme that growth is accelerated through connection and shared understanding. Wisdom is portrayed not as authority, but as lived experience offered with patience and respect. Comic relief characters contribute to archetypal balance by embodying humor and accessibility. Their presence ensures that emotional weight does not dominate the narrative. Humor serves as both entertainment and structural relief, allowing audiences to process dramatic developments without tension overload. These characters often reveal hidden insights through casual dialogue, demonstrating that wisdom can appear in unexpected forms. Their contributions emphasize inclusivity within the story world. The hero's journey structure is evident in the progression from departure to transformation. The protagonist begins in a familiar environment defined by competition and recognition. Circumstances then lead to displacement, placing the character in an unfamiliar context. This separation creates opportunities for reflection and new relationships. Through trials and interpersonal challenges, internal change begins to take shape. Eventually, the character returns to the central environment with a renewed understanding of identity and purpose. This structural framework enhances audience engagement because it mirrors universal patterns of growth. Viewers can recognize elements of their own experiences within the narrative arc. Change often requires stepping outside comfort zones, encountering new perspectives, and integrating lessons into daily life. By reflecting this pattern, the film reinforces relatable storytelling principles while maintaining entertainment value. Motivation is another essential component of character development. At the beginning, motivation is primarily external, focused on achievement and status. As the story progresses, motivation becomes internal, centered on personal integrity and meaningful relationships. This transition demonstrates psychological maturation. External rewards become secondary to internal satisfaction. The shift highlights the film's emphasis on emotional fulfillment rather than material success. Visual storytelling reinforces these developmental stages. Early scenes often depict the protagonist in dynamic, forward-moving compositions, symbolizing ambition and momentum. As growth occurs, framing becomes more balanced, emphasizing interaction with others rather than solitary focus. Environmental design also reflects this progression, transitioning from competitive arenas to community-oriented spaces. These visual cues support character evolution without relying solely on dialogue. The ensemble cast contributes to thematic reinforcement. Each supporting character represents different facets of personality and society. Together, they create a microcosm of diverse perspectives. Interaction among these archetypes demonstrates how cooperation leads to collective progress. Rather than centering the narrative solely on one individual, the story emphasizes interconnected development. This ensemble approach enriches the archetypal framework. Emotional vulnerability is crucial to transformation. The protagonist's willingness to admit mistakes and reconsider beliefs marks a turning point in character growth. The visual identity of cars is built almost entirely through character design and environmental construction, since the story exists within a fully animated world where every surface, structure, and character form must be intentionally created. Unlike live-action films that rely on physical costumes and sets, this animated production uses design principles to communicate personality, culture, and social dynamics. In this context, character appearance functions as costume, while the surrounding environments operate as extensions of identity and community. Each character is designed with a unique combination of shape language, color palette, and proportional structure. These design choices are not arbitrary. They reflect personality traits, narrative roles, and thematic symbolism. Streamlined forms suggest speed, ambition, and forward movement, while more grounded or compact silhouettes communicate stability and reliability. Through these visual distinctions, audiences can instantly recognize character differences without the need for extensive exposition. This clarity is especially important in animated storytelling, where quick visual communication enhances engagement. Color plays a significant role in world building. Vibrant tones are used to emphasize individuality, while complementary hues create contrast between characters. The environment itself often incorporates warm and earthy shades, particularly in community-oriented settings. These colors help establish atmosphere and reinforce emotional tone. Lighting interacts with color to produce depth and dimensionality, ensuring that characters feel integrated within their surroundings rather than layered on top of them. Environmental design contributes heavily to immersion. The world is constructed with careful attention to architecture, landscape, and spatial organization. Buildings reflect small-town influences, with structures that emphasize functionality and familiarity. Road systems, signage, and public spaces are arranged to create a believable social ecosystem. This detailed construction allows the setting to function as more than background scenery. It becomes an active participant in storytelling, shaping movement, interaction, and mood. The design of open landscapes contrasts with enclosed spaces, reinforcing thematic ideas. Expansive roads and wide horizons symbolize opportunity, freedom, and exploration. These environments support sequences of motion and transformation. In contrast, intimate interiors and community gathering areas promote conversation and reflection. This interplay between openness and enclosure mirrors the protagonist's internal journey from independence toward connection. Visual space becomes a metaphor for emotional development. Texture rendering enhances realism within the stylized world. Surfaces such as metal, rubber, asphalt, and natural elements are differentiated through shading and reflection techniques. The interaction of light with these materials required advanced computational processes. Reflective surfaces, in particular, demanded careful calibration, as characters exist in environments where visual reflection is constant. This technical achievement strengthens immersion while preserving artistic consistency. The design philosophy behind the characters emphasizes expressiveness within limitation. Since the characters do not possess traditional human anatomy, emotional communication relies on alternative visual mechanisms. Eye placement, body tilt, and orientation serve as primary indicators of feeling. Subtle adjustments in positioning can transform confidence into uncertainty or excitement into contemplation. This reliance on minimalistic expression demonstrates how animation can convey complexity without excessive detail. World building also extends to social structure. The community within the story reflects values of cooperation, shared identity, and mutual support. Public spaces are designed to encourage interaction. Gathering areas, service locations, and communal environments create opportunities for relationships to develop naturally. These design elements reinforce narrative themes by embedding them within physical space. Architecture and layout subtly communicate the importance of togetherness. Visual symbolism is integrated into character environments. The protagonist's initial surroundings reflect ambition and competitive focus. These spaces often appear energetic and performance-oriented. As the story progresses, environmental design shifts to emphasize warmth and inclusivity. This transition mirrors internal growth. By aligning setting changes with character development, the film ensures that visual storytelling supports thematic progression. Costume in traditional film often communicates status, profession, or personality. In this animated world, surface decoration and accessories serve similar functions. Details such as decals, lighting accents, and personalized markings contribute to individuality. These elements are carefully placed to avoid visual clutter while maintaining distinctiveness. Consistency in design ensures that characters remain recognizable across different scenes and lighting conditions. Camera composition further enhances world building. Framing choices determine how much of the environment is visible in relation to characters. Wide shots emphasize spatial scale and contextual placement, while close framing highlights emotional nuance. This flexibility allows the setting to feel dynamic. The digital nature of animation enables camera movement that integrates seamlessly with character motion, producing smooth transitions and immersive perspectives. The integration of design and narrative is evident in the way environments respond to character presence. Reflections, shadows, and lighting conditions adapt to scene context. These visual responses reinforce realism and strengthen immersion. Attention to detail in these areas ensures continuity across sequences. Consistency in world building prevents distraction and maintains audience focus on character development. Symbolic use of infrastructure also contributes to thematic depth. Pathways represent direction and choice. Intersections suggest decision points. These spatial metaphors are embedded within the environment, allowing viewers to interpret meaning through observation rather than explicit explanation. This subtle integration of symbolism reflects sophisticated storytelling principles within animated form. The overall design approach balances stylization with believability. While the world is imaginative, it maintains internal logic. Proportions, textures, and environmental relationships follow consistent rules. This coherence allows audiences to suspend disbelief and accept the setting as a functioning society. Consistency strengthens immersion and enhances emotional investment. Collaboration between artists, technical directors, and designers ensured that visual identity remained unified throughout production. Concept art guided initial development, establishing tone and aesthetic direction. Modeling teams translated sketches into three-dimensional forms. Lighting and rendering teams refined final appearance. This pipeline required coordination across departments, demonstrating the collaborative nature of animated filmmaking. The world building in Cars also supports character-driven storytelling. Every location is designed to facilitate interaction and development. The screenplay of Cars is structured to balance character-driven dialogue with visual storytelling, ensuring that conversation supports emotion and plot progression without overwhelming the animated medium. The writing emphasizes clarity, rhythm, and accessibility, allowing audiences of different ages to follow the story easily while still discovering layered meaning beneath the surface. Dialogue is concise and purposeful, often revealing personality through tone rather than lengthy explanation. Humor operates on multiple levels throughout the script. For younger viewers, comedy frequently emerges from physical situations, exaggerated reactions, and visual contrast. Timing plays a critical role in these moments as pauses, expressions, and movement contribute to comedic effect. Animation allows precise control over timing, meaning that jokes can be crafted frame by frame to maximize impact. This level of control enhances consistency and ensures that humor integrates smoothly with narrative flow. For older audiences, humor often relies on situational irony, character dynamics, and subtle wordplay. Conversations may contain layered meanings that reflect broader themes of pride, humility, or community values. This dual structure enables the film to engage viewers regardless of age. The screenplay avoids relying solely on rapid jokes, instead weaving humor naturally into interactions so that it feels organic rather than inserted. Recurring phrases and character-specific speech patterns contribute to identity development. Each main character possesses a distinctive voice, not only in performance but in written dialogue. These patterns help audiences quickly recognize emotional shifts or changes in attitude. Repetition of certain expressions reinforces personality traits and strengthens memory association. Through consistent dialogue design, the screenplay builds familiarity and reinforces thematic continuity. Exposition in the film is handled primarily through visual storytelling rather than direct explanation. Instead of lengthy background summaries, information about the world and its history is revealed through environment, interaction, and action. This approach respects audience intelligence and maintains pacing. By embedding context within scenes, the screenplay ensures that narrative details emerge naturally as part of the story rather than interrupting it. Character relationships are advanced through conversation that reveals motivation and internal conflict. Dialogue often serves as a tool for transformation, particularly in moments where perspectives differ. Disagreements are resolved not through dominance, but through listening and understanding. This emphasis on communication aligns with the film's broader themes of growth and empathy. The screenplay demonstrates how words can function as instruments of change when paired with experience. The comedic structure of the film also relies on contrast. Differences in personality create opportunities for humor, especially when characters approach situations from opposing viewpoints. Timing between lines is carefully calibrated, allowing reactions to land effectively. Silence is sometimes used to heighten comedic tension before resolution. This manipulation of rhythm reflects a deep understanding of how dialogue interacts with performance and editing. Emotional scenes are written with restraint. Rather than relying on overly dramatic speeches, the screenplay allows feelings to surface gradually. Subtle language choices convey sincerity without exaggeration. This understated approach ensures that emotional moments feel authentic within the animated context. By avoiding excessive sentimentality, the film maintains balance between heart and humor. The screenplay structure follows a clear progression that supports character development. Early dialogue establishes ambition and confidence. Middle sections introduce challenge and reflection, and later conversations emphasize change and understanding. This structural alignment between narrative arc and dialogue evolution strengthens coherence. As characters grow, their speech patterns often shift to reflect new awareness and humility. Interaction between characters is central to storytelling. Conversations are rarely isolated. Instead, they build upon previous exchanges. Callbacks to earlier dialogue reinforce continuity and highlight transformation. When characters reference past experiences, it demonstrates development over time. This technique rewards attentive viewers and contributes to narrative depth. The integration of humor with theme is particularly important. Jokes are not separate from moral lessons, but often reinforce them. Comedic misunderstandings can lead to insight, and playful exchanges may reveal underlying truths. This alignment ensures that entertainment value supports rather than distracts from story meaning. The screenplay structure demonstrates how humor and heart can coexist within a unified narrative framework. Voice performance influences how dialogue is interpreted, and the script accommodates expressive delivery. Lines are written to allow rhythm, pauses, and inflection. This flexibility enables actors to bring individuality to their characters. The collaboration between written text and vocal interpretation enhances authenticity. Dialogue becomes dynamic rather than static, shaped by performance choices during recording sessions. The screenplay also incorporates moments of reflective silence. These pauses allow visual storytelling to take precedence. In animated film, silence can communicate emotion as effectively as words. By strategically placing quiet intervals, the story emphasizes internal change. This contrast between spoken dialogue and visual expression enhances overall impact. Comedic timing within the script is carefully distributed throughout the runtime. Humor appears consistently to maintain engagement, particularly during transitions between major plot developments. This pacing prevents tonal imbalance. Laughter serves as a bridge between narrative beats, keeping the audience emotionally connected while advancing the storyline. The structure of conversations often mirrors character arcs. Initial interactions may contain misunderstanding or tension, but later exchanges reflect trust and collaboration. This progression demonstrates growth in interpersonal dynamics. Dialogue evolves alongside character transformation, reinforcing the theme of change through communication. The marketing campaign for Cars was designed to introduce audiences to a new cinematic world while positioning the film as both an emotional story and a broad entertainment experience. The promotional strategy combined theatrical trailers, visual previews, character introductions, and music-driven marketing to highlight the film's energy and personality. From the earliest announcements, the campaign emphasized the unique setting and the distinctive character designs, ensuring immediate visual recognition across media platforms. Distribution efforts were supported by Disney, whose global infrastructure enabled the film to reach international audiences efficiently. Coordinated release schedules allowed the movie to premiere across multiple regions with consistent branding. This worldwide rollout strengthened awareness and helped establish the film as a major family release. International marketing materials were adapted to different languages and cultural contexts while preserving core visual identity, ensuring coherence across territories. Trailers played a central role in audience engagement. Early promotional videos focused on high-energy racing sequences, vibrant environments, and character introductions. These previews highlighted both action and humor, signaling that the film would appeal to children while maintaining narrative depth for adults. Carefully selected scenes were used to showcase emotional moments without revealing major plot developments. This balance between intrigue and clarity encouraged anticipation without diminishing surprise. Music was also integrated into promotional strategies. The soundtrack composed by Newman contributed to brand recognition. Melodic themes were featured in advertisements, television spots, and online previews. The association between musical motifs and visual imagery strengthened emotional recall. Audiences who heard the score outside the film context could immediately connect it to the cinematic experience. This auditory branding reinforced continuity between marketing materials and the full feature. Toy lines became one of the most visible aspects of the film's commercial presence. Character models were transformed into collectible figures, playsets, and interactive products. The simple yet distinctive shapes of the characters made them ideal for adaptation into physical merchandise. Children could recreate scenes or invent new adventures, extending storytelling beyond the screen. This form of engagement contributed to long-term brand loyalty and sustained visibility in retail environments. Retail partnerships expanded the film's reach through store displays, seasonal campaigns, and themed product placement. Character imagery appeared on clothing, school supplies, and accessories. These collaborations ensured that the film remained visible throughout the year, not only during its theatrical release window. Consistent branding across products helped maintain recognition and reinforced the film's identity within consumer culture. Global reach was strengthened by localization efforts. Marketing teams adapted materials to reflect regional preferences while maintaining universal themes. Translated promotional content ensured accessibility for diverse audiences. This localization strategy allowed the film to resonate across linguistic and cultural boundaries. The emphasis on universal values such as friendship, growth, and community supported international acceptance. Television appearances and cross-promotional segments further enhanced visibility. Character appearances in related media environments introduced the story to viewers who might not have seen the theatrical release. These integrations maintained momentum and encouraged repeated engagement. Exposure across multiple platforms contributed to the perception of the film as a continuing presence rather than a single event. Digital marketing later became increasingly important as online platforms expanded. Trailers and clips circulated through internet channels, allowing audiences to share content widely. Social engagement created discussion spaces where viewers could comment, analyze, and express enthusiasm. This online presence extended promotional reach beyond traditional advertising methods. Interactive engagement strengthened community involvement and reinforced the film's popularity. The branding strategy emphasized the protagonist's journey as the emotional core of the story. Promotional materials often centered on themes of transformation and discovery. This narrative focus distinguished the film from marketing campaigns that rely solely on spectacle. By highlighting character development, the campaign communicated that the film offered both excitement and meaningful storytelling. International box office performance reflected the success of these efforts. Audiences across continents responded positively to the combination of humor, action, and heartfelt narrative. The global appeal demonstrated that the story's themes were not limited by geographic context. This widespread reception validated the marketing strategy and confirmed the strength of the creative vision. Theme park integration further amplified global reach through experiential branding. Attractions inspired by the film allowed visitors to engage physically with environments reminiscent of the cinematic world. These immersive experiences extended storytelling into real spaces, transforming viewers into participants. This type of cross-platform expansion strengthened emotional connection and reinforced brand identity. Media coverage during release highlighted both technical innovation and family-friendly appeal. Interviews with creative leaders emphasized the collaborative process behind production. Public appearances and promotional events contributed to awareness and reinforced anticipation. This coordinated effort between creative and marketing teams ensured consistent messaging across channels. The visual identity of the film became a recognizable symbol in popular culture. Character silhouettes and color schemes were used in promotional graphics, reinforcing coherence. This consistency ensured that even brief glimpses of imagery could immediately signal association with the franchise. Strong visual branding contributed to long-term recognition. The involvement of Pixar animation studios in marketing discussions ensured alignment between artistic vision and promotional strategy. Creative integrity remained central, preventing branding from overshadowing narrative substance. This collaboration allowed marketing efforts to reflect the film's tone and values accurately. Cross-promotional partnerships extended visibility into various retail and entertainment sectors. Coordinated campaigns aligned product launches with film release timing. This synchronization maximized impact and maintained public attention during peak viewing periods. Sustained marketing presence contributed to strong initial attendance and continued audience interest. Overall, the marketing, branding, and global reach of Cars demonstrate how strategic communication and creative storytelling can work together to establish enduring cultural presence. The position of Cars within the broader history of animated cinema can be understood by comparing its storytelling approach, visual design, and thematic focus with earlier landmark films in the genre. During the decades preceding its release, animated features evolved from traditional hand-drawn techniques to advanced computer-generated imagery, and this transformation reshaped narrative possibilities. The film stands as part of this evolution, reflecting both the technological maturity of digital animation and the narrative ambitions that studios pursued in the early 21st century. When compared to earlier works such as Toy Story, the similarities in character-driven storytelling become evident. Both films emphasize emotional arcs and relationships over spectacle alone. However, while toy-focused storytelling centers on identity through imagination and play, this film explores identity through community and environment. The shift in setting from household interiors to expansive landscapes demonstrates how animated cinema expanded its spatial imagination over time. The progression from intimate environments to fully realized worlds reflects technological growth and increased confidence in computer animation. Another important comparison can be made with Finding Nemo, which also blends adventure with emotional development. Both narratives involve journeys that challenge protagonists to grow through experience. However, the thematic focus differs. While that story emphasizes family bonds and parental relationships, this film concentrates on self-discovery and the redefinition of success. The contrast highlights the diversity of storytelling approaches within the same creative environment. Each film uses adventure as a framework, yet the emotional center varies according to narrative intention. In relation to classic animated storytelling such as The Lion King, differences in tone and structure become apparent. Traditional fairy tale-inspired narratives often incorporate clear moral dichotomies and mythic symbolism. In contrast, this film grounds its lessons in contemporary settings and everyday values. Instead of royal lineage or destiny-driven prophecy, the story focuses on personal choice and community involvement. This reflects a shift in animated storytelling philosophy, moving toward relatable environments and modern themes while maintaining emotional resonance. The tone of Cars balances humor, reflection, and action in a way that aligns with broader trends in animated cinema during its release period. Earlier animated features sometimes emphasized musical spectacle or fantasy-driven worlds. This film integrates music and narrative subtly, allowing songs and score to enhance rather than dominate the experience. The integration of sound and story reflects a maturing approach to cinematic structure within digital animation. Visually, the film differs from many predecessors by embracing a fully reflective mechanical world. While earlier animated environments often centered on organic characters or stylized fantasy landscapes, this story required complex rendering of metallic surfaces and realistic lighting interactions. This technical direction influenced future productions, encouraging further experimentation with texture, reflection, and environmental depth. The advancement in rendering capabilities expanded the creative toolkit available to animators, shaping the evolution of digital filmmaking. In terms of character representation, the film contributes to the ongoing expansion of ensemble storytelling within animation. Rather than relying solely on a single hero figure, the narrative distributes emotional significance across multiple characters. This approach mirrors trends seen in other contemporary animated works, where supporting figures possess meaningful arcs and personalities. Ensemble design strengthens world building and allows audiences to identify with different perspectives. Storytelling philosophy within the film reflects a broader movement in animation toward emotional authenticity. Instead of relying exclusively on exaggerated morality or simplistic conflict, the narrative emphasizes gradual growth and relational change. This aligns with a trend in modern animated cinema that prioritizes psychological development and balanced characterization. The protagonist's transformation illustrates how character arcs can be driven by introspection rather than external conquest. The film also represents the continued collaboration between creative leadership and technological innovation at Pixar Animation Studios. The studio's commitment to story-first development distinguishes its productions from purely technology-driven projects. By integrating narrative refinement with rendering advancements, the film demonstrates how animation can evolve without losing emotional focus. This philosophy has influenced industry standards and encouraged other studios to adopt similar iterative storytelling methods. Within the broader evolution of animated storytelling, the film reflects a transition toward franchise-capable worlds. While maintaining a self-contained narrative, it also establishes a universe rich enough for expansion. This balance between closure and openness allows stories to continue through sequels and related media. Such structural flexibility is increasingly common in contemporary animation, where successful properties often extend beyond a single installment. Tone comparison across animated cinema reveals that this film leans toward grounded emotional lessons rather than mythic grandeur. While fantasy remains present in its anthropomorphic premise, the themes are rooted in everyday experiences such as competition, friendship, and personal reflection. This grounding in familiar values helps maintain accessibility across diverse audiences. The relatability of its message distinguishes it from stories that rely heavily on extraordinary circumstances. In terms of audience impact, the film contributes to the diversification of animated protagonists. It demonstrates that unconventional main characters can support meaningful storytelling. This expansion of representation in form encourages creative experimentation within the medium. The success of such an approach reinforces the idea that animation can transform any concept into an emotionally resonant narrative when character development remains central.